Welcome to tips, tricks, and techniques on how to get your artistical works done in no time. Today we'll be focusing on your hand. Yes, this guy, one of the ultimate tools ever when it comes to drawing, but it can still be your worst nightmare if you wrongly use it. Now, I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered why you keep getting that inconsistent flow of shade each time you try to make a very nice shading, or you keep getting that biometrical verification in your artwork each time you draw? You probably might have guessed it right, but if you haven't, you might still be blind to this simple artistical fact, which is definitely something you should be avoiding if you want to make a clean and aesthetic artwork. This is your greatest artistical tool when it comes to your artistical life, but it might be your worst nightmare if wrongly used. Now, I'm not talking about the glove. I'm talking about the hands. Now, let's get a little bit practical, shall we? Right now, I'm going to be showing you a little bit of demonstration with regards to why sometimes you keep getting this bumpy and inconsistent shade in your drawings. Here, I'm going to leave it untouched, and this area, I'm going to be using my thumb to place on this area. Just randomly touch the paper, and it looks pretty much the same. You can't see any graphite or anything, but watch what happens. I want to take a beauty blender. This is something I blend frequently with. Now, you might think there is no problem here, but the problem lies with when you start using a blender. Now, watch what happens. I want to blend this area with this. So now I'm going to try this same thing over here and see what happens. The more I shade, the more obvious the fingerprints become. So now you can see the difference between having your finger pressed in on the paper and not having your finger pressed in on the paper. Why does this happen? The thing is that your hands tend to produce oil. Pretty much your entire body, it's kind of oily, produces oil. So even if your hands are clean, those oils will definitely stick on the paper and produce this guy you are seeing here. So having seen this, how do you stop this unprofessional act from happening while drawing? One of the obvious ways to minimize this is getting a glove like this. It doesn't really mean that if you have a glove, you can't actually smudge your work or get some stains around. But the advantage to having a glove is that even if it happens that you stain some areas of your artwork with your glove, you can easily take your eraser and erase those areas, and it's going to come off easily. But when it comes to your bare hands, either your charcoal or your graphite plus your paper is equals to
permanent smoothing.
So you don't want to have that. So try and always have a glove like this. The next thing you want to do is have a coverage. Always have something to cover your artwork. Even if you have a glove like this, it really helps. Try to practice the habit of always having a paper or something to cover your hand while drawing, which is going to prevent that. Another thing is always try to keep your hands clean and don't unnecessarily place your hand on your paper except necessary. Now, there are some times you would want to place your hand on your paper, but here is it. Don't press in on the paper. I can easily place my hand on my paper and not still have this oily stuff coming out from my hand. That is because I did not press this oil on the paper. So if you don't do that, it will hardly come on your paper. So always try not to apply pressure to your paper each time you are using your hand on your artwork. If that is done, I assure you, you would not be having that inconsistent shading or biometrical verification on your artwork. And lastly, what you want to do, always form the habit of having something to cover your piece of artwork each time you're done drawing, because other than having your hand to create this bumpy stuff or creating oil on your paper, there are other things that can easily fall on your paper that might stick to the paper and result to all of this. Let's not put all the blame on this guilty guy here, shall we? So till I see you next time, and go Links Art, this is Links Art.